Well, hello, young scholars. This is Mr. Martirone, and here we are with our recipe for revolution lesson. All right, so today I'm going to show you the causes of World War I by making one of my favorite recipes. So here we go. Join me. You are going to create a recipe that explains the causes of a particular revolution. Some of you may have the American Revolution. Some of you may have the French Revolution. Some of you may have revolutions in Haiti or Latin America, what we call the Atlantic revolutions. You are going to break down each of the causes of the revolutions with different ingredients, mix them all together, and explain to your classmates how all those ingredients formed this pivotal turning point in world history. And I'm going to demonstrate that today with the causes of World War I. And I'm going to make one of my favorite recipes for you. It's called superhero muffins. And if you guys know me, you know that I love chocolate chips. So I'm swapping out the blueberries and they're going to be superhero chocolate chip muffins. World War I, which lasted from 1914 to 1918, was known as the Great War, not because of its positive nature, but because of the immense scale of the fighting. No previous war had involved as many nations from different parts of the world, and few had killed as many soldiers and civilians. However, World War I did more than create an enormous body count. It fundamentally weakened Western European powers, thus encouraging the growth of nationalism and appeals for self-rule within European colonies in Asia and Africa. The treaty signed at the end of the war arguably set the stage for World War II. World War I was easily one of the most influential events of the 20th century. All right, young scholars, so there's many causes of World War I. Chief among them was the military alliance system in Europe. In their quest for power, European nations formed secret alliances whose members agreed to protect and help one another when attacked. When one member of an alliance was attacked in any way, the other members of the alliance were expected to stand up for that particular member. This system explains why Russia and Germany were so ready to jump into conflict between Serbia and Austria-Hungary in 1914. Another example is Great Britain and France, who were allied with Russia in the Triple Entente, but they also viewed Germany as a rival. After the war began, the Triple Entente added the United States, China, and Japan to its coalition. This diverse group became known as the Allies during World War I. The Allies' rival before the war was known as the Triple Alliance, and this composed of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. At the outbreak of the war, the Ottoman Empire joined the Triple Alliance, which was also called the Central Powers. But that is going to be our overarching cause, and eventually that sends us the world into chaos. So I'm going to heat up my oven to 400 degrees because it's going to take a little bit of time for that oven to heat up. And that's exactly what happens in Europe. Beginning in the late 1800s, this military alliance system slowly begins to build up and eventually would lead us into war. All right, young scholars, so the oven is set. Our alliances are brewing. Our next ingredient is going to be the mix itself. This mix represents the growing militarism of the late 1800s, early 1900s. So our first step is going to be to put the militarism into our main bowl. So that is going to be really the first thing that we put in as our base ingredient. Because again, you really can't have a war without military weapons and instruments. Militarism celebrates war and the armed forces. European powers had competing for dominance for years, and one way to prove their strength was to invest in the military. Great Britain and Germany in particular spent a great deal of money building up their armies and navies. They were heavily recruited young men to join the armed forces, and they began buying more ships and more military hardware. This arms race was in fact intended to keep military powers in check, but ultimately it would be one of the leading causes of World War I. So we've got our base, we've got our militarism ready to go, but that's nothing without the next couple causes of World War I. And we have 3 eggs, Nellie's free-range eggs, always free-range, non-GMO. These 3 eggs represent additional causes. So in egg number 1, we have imperialism. Remember, imperialism is the domination of one European country over the lives of other countries. Western European countries scrambled for any available land in Africa to add colonies to what they already owned, especially in the South and Southeast Asia, and in the Americas, and in the Pacific. Thus, imperialism was a driving force behind tensions in Europe, leading to World War I. In egg number 2, we have nationalism. Nationalism was overtaking Europe, and that played a huge role in the road to World War I. Remember, nationalism is excessive pride in your home country, and each country was proud of its culture, especially newly independent countries like Greece, Romania, and Serbia, all which were located on the Balkan Peninsula, a region in southeastern Europe. And we're going to crack the egg, put it on in here, make sure you don't get any shell in the egg. So we have our imperialism egg, we have our nationalism egg, and we've got the egg of America staying neutral. All right, this ever so gently. Again, it's still a little, the texture's just a little dry, but that's okay because that's going to take us to our next ingredient, our next cause for World War I. We now have 2 other ingredients that we have to mix into our equation, and that is going to be represented with our canola oil. So number 1, the canola oil is going to represent Russia and Serbia. Remember, Germany was an Austrian-Hungarian ally, declared war on Russia, which supported Serbia. Germany also declared war on France, which was also a Russian ally. So I'm just going to fill that up. Now, not too much, but now we've got to add our next ingredient, and this is water. Easy enough. It's a half a cup of water, and what this water represents, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. All right, so we have a really nice texture going, as you can see, of our hero muffins. I am actually just adding, just because I'm a sweets guy, just a little sprinkle of a smattering of chocolate chips, if you will. So we've got the oven at 400 degrees. That's our alliances. We've got our eggs. That was nationalism, imperialism, America's neutrality. We have the canola or vegetable oil. I'm going to add a banana. Now, this is optional. Banana is going to represent America 2 phases. One is the Zimmerman telegram. In early 1917, British intelligence intercepted a telegram from a German official named Arthur Zimmerman. The Zimmerman note proposed an alliance between Germany and Mexico against the United States. In exchange, Germany would help Mexico take back Texas and other lost territories. Mexico declined, but the telegram was published by an American newspaper, and anti-German sentiment boiled over. On April 2nd, 1917, Woodrow Wilson asked Congress to declare war on Germany. After 3 days of debate, the United States entered the Great War. And the other part is going to be the sinking of the Lusitania. Now, the Allies blocked off German ports. The Germans retaliated by targeting Allied ships with submarines called undersea boats or U-boats. On May 7, 1915, a U-boat sank the British ship Lusitania, killing 1,000 people, including over 100 Americans. There were ammunitions and unlawful goods in the cargo, but the Lusitania was a passenger ship, and the civilian deaths seemed inhumane. Pause. But I'm going to put that into my Ninja. I'm going to blend that and then pour that in, and that's going to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of potassium into our mix. This is going to make a great post-run or post-workout treat. Our muffin mix is coming together nicely. Our oven is just about hitting the 400 degree point. Now we've got to put it into the pan. So our muffins were made with our various ingredients representing imperialism, nationalism, militarism, conflicts between Russia, Serbia, and Austria-Hungary. They've now been divided into their main alliances, the Triple Entente versus the Triple Alliance. And all we're waiting for is the one thing to cause an event. That event happens on June 28th, 1914, and that's going to be representative of me putting these muffins into the oven. Millions of Slavic people who lived under Austrian-Hungarian rule wanted to become part of Serbia. On June 28, 1914, a Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Princip, a member of the Black Hand, assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who was an heir to the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. This set into motion events that would begin World War I. After 3 years of a bloody stalemate, by the summer of 1918, U.S. forces were finally in place in Europe. U.S. actions helped push the war in the Allies' favor. Allied advances against the Central Powers forced Germany to surrender on November 11, 1918, known as Armistice Day. Between 8 million and 9 million soldiers died in the Great War, with more than 21 million wounded. All right, young scholars, so after about 17 to 18 minutes at 400 degrees, long at last, our causes of World War I muffins are ready. We're going to let them cool for a little bit, and then we are going to enjoy a delicious treat. And I can't wait to see what you do with your Revolution Recipes assignment. Looking very forward to it. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy cooking. Bye.